by throwing Hillary Clinton in there and Biden not participating more than he should be in a lot of the champion of his points of view and the Democratic Party and his presidency. Him not doing that is shitty because he is holding the championship belt and he's not a fighting champion. So that's a problem. But having said that, a lot of you guys around me that we have conversations over a beer, in my case, is a gluten-free beer, that we start talking about politics, it leads to 2, 3 hours in the middle of the night with you guys just being livid because much like Dave and myself, you are liberal leaning, but in a way that makes sense, commonsensically, to where you don't just blindly go, well, I agree with everything that Biden says. I agree with everything the liberals are doing, everything the Democratic Party's doing, but you are aware that the Democratic Party is not making stars. There's no legacy passing on. There's no building of the future of that party. It just like in the Republican Party, it's a bunch of dinosaurs holding on to their power. And it is very disheartening that this is where this is all going. I do respect the old school Republican Party, the Reaganite Republicans, which there are none left. Okay. Liz Cheney, who finally was ousted and is now saying that the Republican Party is simply not the Republican Party anymore. They're a party that doesn't believe in the Constitution, that is against America, period, and is just sycophants of Donald Trump. And then we also lose Mitt Romney, who, for everybody out there that wants to piss on Mitt Romney that listens to this podcast, I respect them. I really do. Do I agree with everything Mitt Romney voted on? No. But I think as far as a man goes, I think there's a lot of integrity. I think there was more integrity with him than there is the average human that calls themselves a Republican in that party, serving in either the Senate, Congress, or anyone that's Donald J. Trump. And he's gone. And in a lot of his recent memoirs, he's describing pretty much there is no saving the Republican Party. On his way out the door, John McCain, another man I respect greatly. Look at this record of not helping the poor and not helping people with AIDS and not people. I get all that. I'm not disparaging that. Okay. But what I am saying is that the individuals in that party who had integrity, who had morals or ethics inside them are gone. They're going. It's over. And what Liz Cheney's saying is correct. It is basically a Nazi type party. It is a strongman dictatorship that Donald J. Trump has convinced all the MAGA zombies out there to turn them on any rich man Republican candidate that doesn't do what he wants them to do, which primarily is putting him and keeping him in dictatorship type power. Okay. So the thing is that I understand why the timekeeper's pissed, and a lot of you out there are upset and scared. Quite frankly, you're scared, and I'm scared. I get that.
It's watching the slow moving train while we're laying down tied to the tracks.
That's right. So I am not putting that down. I just want you guys to know out there, as Dave put it out there, we're not ignoring it. We're not stupid, and we're not taking a blind eye. It's just that we knew, I think instinctively, because we're a great tag team, we just knew that there's going to be a point where this is going to be what we do in the ring for many, many probably years to come, is be the voice of a lot of you out there and to get through what's going to become a complete dictatorship. And I think that we knew this instinctively, and we are talking about it now, and we will be talking about it in the future. But Trump versus Biden, part two, the worst sequel, is going to happen. It's going to happen. And we're left with two ancient human beings. Neither one the best person for the job, but something that the Democrats failed in their capacity to figure out a legacy training, a performance center type situation to get some new candidates up and running to where they could run them. I mean, Jesus Christ, even if the Republicans have no moderate Republican and the liberals seem to have no common sense, you know, liberal. The Democrats don't have anyone that in the younger group that just seems like a common sense type star in the making. Everything's become pro wrestling show business to where I don't I don't fault the average American for going. I don't even want to vote. All these people, none of these people represent me. And but the timekeeper, what he says, I have to agree with. Where you know the people that wear the red hats are also the ones that have all the guns, legally or illegally. So we do have, and like I talked about years before, there is a cold civil war happening that's going to turn, I believe, if Trump runs again, whether he wins, whether he loses, a popular vote or an electoral vote, however it lays, there is going to be violence in this country. We do have a cold civil war that's going to turn into Civil War 2 very soon. And so, Timekeeper, thank you for writing us. I do understand your concern. Just know that we are just as concerned as you, and we have not been ignoring this. We just knew this was going to be something that we would probably be talking about indefinitely for years.
Well, in the more immediate future, Trump's currently facing, I believe the current count is up to 91 criminal charges, and possibly even more damning to him is that it looks like he's already been found, guilty on the civil case in New York. They're just trying to figure out what the penalties are going to be. So it looks like the Trump organization, and as well as him personally, are going to lose the business license to operate in New York, which is devastating for them, as well as possibly be levied, like, I think it's like up to a $250 million fine. Now, despite all of Trump's bluster and all that, combine all that together, that could absolutely cripple him. Now, does that negate him from running? No, I think he's largely running again to try to, keep himself out of jail. But that is a very genuine threat to him at this moment in time. Now, what I've heard today is that now the Supreme Court is going to be hearing whether or not his claims of immunity hold any merit for the election interference charges that he's facing in D.C., obviously. But I forget if the Georgia charges would apply to that or not. It would depend on if they're state or federal. Because remember, he can pardon himself all he wants. That only applies to federal charges. Anything that he's found guilty on a state level, doesn't matter pardon power or not. He can't really do much about that as far as getting himself off the hook. Now, if he's elected to office, obviously it's going to be a little difficult to send him to jail. But just to be clear on that, but I think the more immediate issue that is going to come up before we get to an election is when the Supreme Court hears this thing about Trump. He basically just made it up, but this whole idea that because he was president at the time, he was immune from because he wasn't found guilty in the impeachment, therefore he cannot be tried for any activities that he did during office. Now, I will say I have no faith in the Supreme Court, especially not Clarence Thomas, who should be required to recuse himself because of all of the activities he and his wife had participated in, directly related to the whole quote unquote stop the steal movement in January 6th and that entire thing. Of course, he probably won't, and no one will make him because, yay, America. But I will say that when it came to the issue of abortion, the Supreme Court acted exactly as Trump had put them in office to rule, whether it be Kavanaugh or, Comey Barrett or et cetera, Gorish or whatever. They were put in those positions because of the abortion issue. And that is, and I don't say this as a good thing. I think it's been absolutely horrific, across the board for people's personal rights and for the country as a whole. But if you're talking about something that he tried to achieve that he succeeded in, the abortion issue would actually be his greatest legislative achievement, which he
Legacy.
mainly accomplished by, stacking the Supreme Court. Now, ironically, he's tried to distance himself from that a little bit because abortion has proven to be such a toxic poison pill for Republicans in the last couple of election cycles, that he's actually trying to distance himself a little bit, which is costing him some evangelical vote. But regardless of that, the Supreme Court has ruled against him multiple times on anything not labeled abortion since the time that he was in office and then left office. So I don't think it's necessarily a given that the Supreme Court would rule in his favor on these types of issues. I'm not saying they wouldn't. Again, I have no faith in them. But I wouldn't say it's a foregone conclusion necessarily either, because they have ruled against him, much to his chagrin.